IVM.
Hello, everybody. We got Abhishek Madhavan from MPL today. This is going to be a really fun episode. We have a lot of interesting conversation to come up. We talk about live streaming games, the challenges of establishing a live streaming platform, what are the differences between platforms and games. We talk about growing too fast and the challenges that come with that. I think you're really going to enjoy the conversation. It was an insightful one.
All right, welcome to the show, Abhishek. How are you doing? And thanks for making it down to Bombay. I know you've been a Bombay guy before, and now you're Bangalore.
Yeah.
And of course, you've had a whole bunch of stints. Why don't you give us a quick background on all the various roles you've played all up until today?
So I started my career at Crowdfire with Nishal. So I was doing a bit of marketing there and a little bit of everything. Then I moved into product. Then I moved to Freshdesk, where I was heading marketing for one of the chat products. I think now it's called Fresh Chat. Earlier it was called Hotline. So I was there for a year and a half. Then again, I moved to Unacademy. So I was heading marketing there for a very short bit before founded Loco, which again we sold to Pocket Aces, and I was there for another year or so. And
so this is you've literally rolled out 4 names of different, very interesting, high growth sort of startups, which you've been a part of in either product or marketing.
Yeah.
And you've had short but meaningful stints there.
Yeah.
What's your take on sort of going through these different roles with different teams so quickly, and of course the interesting part which you just mentioned about selling your company also so quickly? Like what sort of led to this?
As into selling the company?
All the various roles also, like why were you jumping between?
So I think it was like different reasons for all the different things. So I was at Crowdfire, and probably the people that I met at Crowdfire I'm still like best friends with.
Right.
Keep hanging out with them every time I come to Bombay. That was probably like one of the best teams I've ever worked with, and like probably Nishal also knows, like the set of people we had at that company was insane. Right. A lot of people have gone on to do like crazy things. So I was there for a year or so, and then I don't know, like probably the company also was going through a phase where it was sort of like soul searching of what to do next.
Right.
I was also sort of thinking ki kya karna hai next. So then I sort of moved to, I thought I met some really good people at Freshdesk, and I thought that'll be an interesting stint. So that
Did
was
you move to Chennai?
Yeah, I was there for Chennai for a bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, I met Girish, and I was like blown away. I was like, wow, I need to work with this guy, and that was a fun bit in Chennai. Then after so I joined Freshdesk when Fresh Chat was just being launched.
Correct.
So I was there right from before the launch to probably the first 1.5 years to when you hit your first $1 million in revenue and all of that. So I saw that whole cycle, and after that I sort of felt it was just about repeating and like refining that whole process, and I sort of felt that I want to do something more exciting, something different. And Gaurav Munjal Run Academy, he was a very good friend for a lot of years, so he told me that, hey, why don't you come on board here, and we're doing some interesting things. Then I went to Unacademy, and I think that was the time they just closed their Series B and were just moving into the live streaming thing. So fortunately, I was just looking at all the different live streaming apps out there in China and the US. And that was when me and a couple of people at Unacademy were like, wow, like a lot of interesting things are happening. Mm-hmm. And we came across this very interesting app called Bigo Live. I'm sure everyone's seen it now.
Knows it now.
Yeah, so it was crazy. So, Bigo Live, 95% of it was just females doing stuff, but 5% of it was like really, really interesting, like small segments of people doing like really interesting stuff and like very high engagement. Like, so we were like, wow, like this is like something really interesting. And we saw some random dude doing his own amateurish game show on Bigo and giving out money and taking money, and we were like, what is going on here? And then we obviously saw HQ Trivia, which was there in the US. When we first saw it, it had probably like 1,000 people playing it. It wasn't the viral
phenomenon
that it later became. So when we first saw it, probably 1,000 people playing it, and then we sort of thought that something like this could probably work in India, because one, you're giving away money Second, KBC is like probably, it's been the highest rated show on television for like 10-15 years. So we were like, this is something that definitely interesting, and we were like, why don't we try building it?
Right.
So yeah, that's how.
And that's when again you told Gaurav that, hey, I'm gonna go build my own live streaming startup.
Yeah,
and then jumped out into building Zoco.
Yeah.
And of course, again, even there, you built this product and a team very quickly.
Yeah.
Everything sort of fell in place. It grew. It became popular. And then you exited.
Yeah.
Right? Which was what? Within a span of? From conception to exit, if I may ask.
3.5, 4 months.
Wow,
4
that's
months.
fast.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm talking about. You've been just reducing the cycle of execution and to let's say results so much that 4 months exit. Now, I know I'm pretty sure this story is told or maybe not, but what I want to know is, of course, maybe of course a little bit about how it happened, but also I want to ask why being and this is just to talk to the audience as well, that I'm sure every one of us has been a part of a startup, has been a founder. There are multiple incentives you have as a part of a startup. You're always incentivized to stay with the team. You have equity. You know that vesting happens and all of that. You've not taken that route. You've jumped off. You've been a founder. As a founder, everyone worries that, okay, this is my company. I want to build it. I want to see it grow big. I want to make it crazy big, and then maybe exit when I have to ring the NASDAQ bell or whatever.
So you challenge.
You've sort of taken the different paths on both these mindsets. So what's behind it?
So I mean, again, it wasn't like consciously a decision like that. So at least with how Loco happened. So I mean, there were a bunch of different reasons. One, Loco was and probably is insanely expensive to run. It's live streaming, first of all, and you're producing a live show. You're live streaming it to like so many people, and that tech is like very, very expensive, and to run it, like very expensive. So when we were running it, one, it was very, very expensive. Second, we were not sure if, so just building the tech was like insanely tough, and that itself was a huge challenge. And it was probably a miracle that we probably had like 650, 700K concurrent users at one point. We had like 4 engineers, and we were working out of my friend's apartment. It was like that itself was a miracle, but we were like we were not sure if that alone is enough. We were like, the guy who'll make the best show out there, probably he'll win. So we were always scared that while so initially we started off with one of my friends hosting the show. He was a YouTuber called Akash. So he used to host the show initially out of Bangalore. So we were always scared that we knew that this concept could work, but we were always scared that a bigger company would see us and they'll be like, why don't we get Shah Rukh Khan to host this?
Right.
And we'd be so that was the other fear that we had. And other than that, after a point, we sort of realized that this was a really good customer acquisition channel. Like we drove in like users, like insane amounts of users, but we didn't have, because everything happened so quickly, we didn't have enough time to build the complete product to get people to stay. So we saw a lot of, So we saw a lot of Chinese video companies. Even Bigo, there's NewsDog, there's a bunch of different people. So they sort of latched onto this concept and they started building it. We were like, even though we were first to market, and we were like, all of that wouldn't matter because once someone builds it, and we sort of saw that Bigo was building it, someone else was doing it, and all these guys had 10 different things happening on their app. So Bigo has so many live streams happening, different things happening. So for them, it's a very good customer acquisition channel. While for us, we thought that while we were acquiring users at a fast clip, the users, they didn't have anything else to do on the app except for that 10 minutes in the day. So there were a lot of different things happening. So we thought probably exiting it and probably partnering with someone bigger who can help us do a bunch of different things would probably be the right call.
Right, and that's when Pocket Aces sort of came in, who had their own original content and a whole bunch of other things.
Yeah.
Right. And of course, now I think the app is evolving. It's starting to fill up the rest of the 24 hours of the day.
So
that people have stuff to do, and whatever people you acquire through the game show actually then ends up sticking.
Right. Yeah, you need to give people things to do. Otherwise, it becomes there's not that much there, right? If it's not that, and
especially if you don't win the money.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Also, I mean, like if you have other avenues for people to go into, then you can look at finding other ways to monetize besides just this one particular thing. When you have these kinds of numbers, then you want to kind of push all that as well.
Right. Yeah. And while I mean, it's been almost a year. You said that you've been a part of that team, and now you've recently also just moved into yet another very interesting high growth and similar sort of live game sort of a company. Why don't you tell us about that?
So it's called MPL, Mobile Premier League. So again, it's similar to Loco yet a little bit different. So MPL, we basically have a bunch of different casual games on the app, popular casual games like Temple Run, cricket, Candy Crush, all of that. And we basically run tournaments on top of all of these games where you can take part and win real money and other prizes as well. So one of the interesting things about Loco that me and Sai also keep discussing, Sai is the founder, is that MPL has a lot of different things for the user to do, right? Like at MPL we see ourselves as a movie theater. So we don't make any of the games, we don't produce any of the games ourselves. We just like the movie theater. We don't believe in being in the movie business. So games are like movies, right? Can be a hit or a miss. So with Loco, I sort of realized it was a hit game, but even a hit game has a half-life, has an inherent half-life. So that's just how games work. So you would much rather become just like a movie theater rather than making the movies themselves.
Correct, because games will become popular and die in popularity and they can keep coming and going.
So it's like a matchmaking service in that sense? Like you get two players who are playing the same, like Temple Run, for example, right? So you have two people playing Temple Run and you compare their performances?
Yeah, so there are a bunch of different formats. I think we're constantly rolling out new formats every week. So the formats like there are tournaments where like 200,000 people are playing. So inside an hour, you can play the Temple Run game as many times as you want. And whoever gets the highest score in that particular hour gets to win money. Or you can play a 1v1 battle where you challenge someone else. Or there's a random matchmaking where you can match with someone of your similar skill. And you can play and beat them.
That's really interesting. So how does it work from a technical perspective? Again, I'm just curious. Like, is it? Do you play Temple Run within the MPG app, or do you play Temple Run separately and you just kind of connect? How does that work?
It's not exactly the same Temple Run. It's like games. I mean, most big game companies follow this fast follower model where a game becomes a hit, and anyone who has distribution builds a very close copy of it. So all of these games are close copies of all of these popular games. And so you played all of these games you can play inside the MPL app. So we basically download the assets of each of these games whenever you decide to play a particular tournament.
Yeah. That sounds like fun.
In fact, there's a lot I want to actually ask about it's good you mentioned the tech behind this, right? So earlier you mentioned Loco being expensive.
Yeah.
And live streaming, to be very honest, like even though you were first in creating the exact packaging of live streaming as a game show, like we've seen people have copied it and the people are doing it. But the concept of live is now something which is fairly popular. There's like Twitter has its own live streaming. There is obviously Instagram live. There's so many live
insiders doing some really interesting stuff. Like Shreyas, who was on our show way back a couple of months ago.
Correct. They're now they've launched a Loco inside the Insider app in a way.
A long time. I met them like a year back.
So exactly, right? So while we think this is really commonplace, it might be that, and you're right, that it's still one of the things which is expensive to do. And even in today's day and age where we actually don't consider tech to be the most expensive part of a tech startup, right? Because we think AWS and we think servers are cheap, which is why people can just launch an app whenever they want, right? It becomes expensive at scale. Could you tell us a little bit about the kind of costs you guys were running up even at small scales, and around what, and why is it expensive?
So we were using this streaming service called Wowza to stream, and obviously we were using AWS, and we got some credits from a few friends and all of that. But when we started Loco, when we hit say 5,000 users or something in our first month, like 5,000 concurrent users, our AWS bill was around, I think, 4.5 lakhs.
Wow.
So, and as soon as we saw that we were sort of going viral and people were starting sharing, and we were like, fuck, we'll be fucked, because we were spending our own money. So we were like, everything's gonna go up in flames. Like, we were like, this is getting expensive like really, really fast. That's why we need to raise money also really fast.
Correct.
And I mean, that was also one of the factors why
acquisition makes sense.
Yeah.
No, so that means it just happens to be still a genre of tech which is still expensive because of its sheer nature of concurrency.
Yeah.
Right? It's not like every other tech startup which says I have 1 million users.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I could be a home garage app and still have 1 million users, but I won't be spending money like
exactly.
this.
So streaming is a lot more. It's really expensive, right? Even from an audio perspective, we've looked into it a lot. We want to kind of create like like live streams around all. We have like 5,000 episodes of content. We can do like significant live stream, run radio streams. But the costs are just so high that even if you get to like, and your video, right? But even if you get to like a couple of thousand people streaming at the same time, then all of a sudden I'd be spending more on that than I spend on like the entire download cost that I have right now, which is like in 7 figures per month in terms of number of people who are downloading our stuff, right? So it's just it's crazy how much more expensive it gets.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things which is still sort of a barrier to entry in this space, you would say?
Yeah. I mean, suddenly all your cycles are like compressed. You're like thinking, if I grow so fast, suddenly my bills overshoot, then I need to figure out my monetization also faster.
Correct.
Like so many things that like all your cycles basically get compressed, and you're like,
just from a purely because of the cost perspective, right?
Yeah, because you're spending like insane amounts of money.
Right.
So everyone's going to ask you questions on how you're going to get that money back, what's happening, and like.
Of course.
Yeah.
So it's the live streaming and live distribution at the same time, right? If you are doing it like if you have a piece of content that you upload and then pulls down, multiple concurrent users don't matter so much, I think.
Yeah.
It's when you're trying to kind of stream live at one time.
Correct.
And
it's upload and stream.
It's
live stream. That's what live streaming is. It's not so much...
Thank you for slapping me down.
It's not so much uploading on YouTube and just let people watch whenever they want. Right?
Yeah.
So interesting point. And again, even in MPL, you guys are doing, it's live gaming. It's not, you're not streaming per se one to many, but there is many to many.
Yeah. But so MPL is different. I think so. There's no content that's being streamed live.
Correct.
People are playing and the score is just being updated in real time.
Correct.
So that's still manageable versus when you're doing live content, which hopefully we want to do sometime in the future, because like gaming has a lot of opportunity for live streaming.
Right. Okay, so the way that this would work would be similar to like multiplayer gaming on like the older systems where they would only just be sending like positioner data and stuff like that. Right? Okay, right, interesting.
That's again, I think what...
You're going to smack me again?
That's what most platforms work on. No, but let's say even if this was not a game or any other online product today, that's how everything the platform stores the latest state of what each user is doing.
I was thinking of Age of Empires, right, and how you play that online, where it was like you're playing an actual game, but nothing is streaming, but like, okay, where are your positions and stuff like that.
Yeah.
On that note, I think we're going to take a quick break, come back and talk some more.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. If you're not following us on social media, please make sure you do. We are IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. As I mentioned over the last couple of weeks, we've been running a survey on our website. It's at ivmpodcast.com/survey. Please fill it out if you haven't already. And just so you guys know, there is a prize involved for the 25 people we will select at random, and we will send them an IVM Podcast mug. On the Scene and the Unseen, Amit Verma's guest is journalist Alexandra Ulmar. The two of them have a conversation about modern Venezuela. On How To Citizen, Meghna Adershreyas are joined by comedian Uruj Ashfaq to dissect Chapter 7, Understanding Marginalization. On IVM Likes, Alika, Abbas, Janam and myself discuss the relevance of the Oscars and what exactly counts as a best picture. On Dating is Garbage, Abbas, Janam and Surbi sit with stand-up comics Siddharth Dudeja and Pavitra Shetty to discuss cheesy pickup lines and the right age to start dating. On the Pragati podcast, the discussion this time is about Afghanistan before and after the 9/11 attacks. On Shunya 1, Abhishek Madhavan from MPL joins the table to talk about the various challenges of running an online gaming platform. On our Marathi show, Golgappa, Trupti is joined by actress Shriya Pilgaonkar, who bonds with Trupti over food and theatre. And with that, let's continue with your show.
Coming back to a little bit on the things which led to live streaming. So you said even an academy, which is an edtech startup, right? And they're also live. So my point was around this angle of live streaming has sort of embedded itself
Yeah.
in every vertical. You did a game show.
Yeah.
Insider's also actually doing a game show, stand-up.
Yeah.
Unacademy is EdTech. They're doing live streaming of classes.
Yeah.
Bigo was, well, Bigo.
Yeah.
But this embedded, this concept of live is another dimension of people's attention.
Yeah.
It's like not just, hey, spend time on my app whenever you have time, but spend time on my app now when I tell you to. Right? What's your core thesis on why this is suddenly popular? Like, what's when you've built that, when you've been part of these two products which are live streaming, right? How is that a different growth hack?
I mean, what I saw on Bigo was that, it's just a different rush when, at least why I think Bigo did really well or even does really well is like, it's a different rush when you're interacting live with a person on the other end. And like on Bigo, I would see that guys are spending like hundreds of bucks just to get a girl to say hi to them in like real time. And I was like, what's happening? But when you actually do it, when say someone is live streaming and they actually call out your name in real time, and it's
in front of everyone else.
Yeah, it's just a different kind of rush. So I don't know if you guys have checked out this app called so the Vine founders, before they launched HQ Trivia, they had another app, forget the exact name. So they had a bunch of, so HQ Trivia was just one part of that bigger app that these guys launched that didn't really work out. And then they actually launched HQ Trivia as a separate app. So in that app, it was all about live streaming and live interactions in which there would be a host on the other end. And like thousands of people can send their comments and stuff. So say I can feature your comment to like millions of my fans, and I can call you out. And it was like all of you being in the same space at the same time. It was like how people talk about PUBG. Like they're not really playing a game; they're all like hanging out at the same place.
Right.
So I think that's where I feel is.
That's why the thrill of live.
Yeah.
So when you're looking at something like that, your monetization model is through brands, I would assume, right?
On MPL?
On the live streaming piece. So I would say that probably more local, right?
Yeah.
So brands would be your primary monetization piece, right? So one thing that I have seen just generally when looking at these things is brands love when they can control the time of messaging. They just love that, right? So I think that probably is a big reason why live is becoming such a big thing as well, because the monetization opportunities over there are stronger in some ways than what you have for on-demand content.
Like, is this like Super Bowl ad versus YouTube Rolls ad?
Yeah. Oh. So if you look at what is the highest CPM rate that's being charged for anything across the world, the number one answer is live sports. Because you cannot, there's no point in watching an NBA game or a cricket match or an NFL game or anything like that outside of the time when it is being shown at that point in time.
I think the message is much more powerful when you know that the entire world is watching it at the same time versus...
Yeah, it's also how you create so-called, coffee machine, like coffee talk, right? I mean, like the water cooler talk, I guess. That also becomes, because if it's happening at the same time, because otherwise all of the things like when it's a Netflix show or a podcast or a YouTube video or something like that, you'll watch it when you watch it. I'll watch it when I watch it. You'll watch it when you watch it, right? And so even if we've all seen the latest Umbrella Academy episodes on Netflix, you might have seen it last week. I will watch it this week. You will watch it next week. So the conversation is not the same as what happens at that time.
Yeah.
Okay. That's true. That's a very interesting insight there. And that's, so when you were, obviously, you raised a little bit of money for Loco as well, I'm guessing, to start off. And then obviously exit happens very soon.
Yeah.
Didn't you get the interest of brands like Amit's mentioning to sort of fuel your growth instead of...
But I mean, so we did have some interest from brands, but then we were not at that huge number. I mean, so brands get interested when you're probably at like say 100K or 500,000 concurrent.
And also new projects. And sorry, but I mean like new kind of medium, right? Sales cycles are long.
Yeah.
So if it takes 6 months to do a sale, you have already spent 25 lakhs at his burn rate. And that's problematic, right?
Yeah.
Right. No, of course. And that's where, of course, I think the Pocket Aces team now, I think they really know what they've got into. And they're building out some interesting things, of course, with original content and I think even gaming. And
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah.
Right. Just basically come for the show, stay for the
games.
Stay for the rest of stay for the rest of the show, I guess. But now, of course, individually you have always been on the growth marketing sort of side of all of this, right? I mean, even in AdLoco, you were looking at how can we make this popular. What are the few of the things which you have seen, especially being part of various different vertical startups, where you are always doing product growth marketing? It's a sort of blended role. What were your sort of objectives, right? And what are some tricks which you saw and found interesting, which helped all these companies grow?
So I think it was, different for everything. Again, so trees loco, and some point with MPL also, like one of the things that we've used, I think, really well is that once Jio came in, now there's this whole new range of influencers and people who not really, so probably people like you and me know about AIB, TVF, and all these influencers are popular in the urban setting. But now that Jio is coming, there's so many micro level influencers and smaller influencers in all these smaller areas and smaller regions. So I think that is one trend or one big thing that we got onto really well and utilized really well to grow really, really fast.
Could you explain a little bit more about some examples maybe? Or
how did they find your platform, right? I mean, that is a question as well.
Or how were they influencers already, but we just didn't know about them?
Yeah, so we also sort of reached out to some of these guys.
Okay.
And so I don't know if you know of this guy called Amit Doshi. So exactly. So he's India's biggest YouTuber.
Okay.
He's probably like I think 13, 14 million subscribers on YouTube India. And he makes videos primarily for the HSM, for the Delhi, Haryana, Punjab side. And we wouldn't have seen any of his videos, but he is probably I would probably say he's probably like the Salman Khan of YouTube.
Wow.
Like he's insane, like the kind of reach, the power he has, the influence he wields. And similarly, like all of these different pockets have like their own celebs, and now that the internet has come in, like a guy in Haryana doesn't have to watch a AIB video, or he has his own local hero or his local comedians and people who've just come up and suddenly they've shot up in popular. So this guy has become huge over the last 18 months.
Oh.
And so like there's so many people like that who've grown like insanely popular on the internet, on Instagram, on TikTok, on YouTube. And that is a trend that I see very, very clearly, that a lot of these new guys have come in, and because we're sitting in Bombay and Bangalore and we have no idea who these guys are. But I think, especially if you want to reach that other audience. India, that audience, those are the people you should look to.
So you obviously collaborate with them to help popularize your brand on their channels and to their audiences, and then that brings in a whole bunch of users. So, wow, that's actually something which is, and I'm sure then if you've figured this out, then brands are also eventually figuring this out, and now these guys are becoming, they're getting their dues by being who they are. But wow, these are people across verticals. I know, I do know that there are there's so many women who are fashion influencers across categories. There are travel influencers. There are, and stand-up comedy and comedians and content makers, of course, exist all over. What's the trend in the rest of India, and why these? What makes these folks locally so popular? I mean, just since you've...
so I think...
What have you found out?
So I think it's all about that... these guys talk about that exact same thing, that it's very localized, very personalized content, right? Like a guy sitting in probably Kochi in Kerala in India, he probably, till now, probably he had to watch the same MTV Roadies or whatever show that the whole rest of India watches. But now suddenly, because of the internet, like the people in Cochin making stuff that is so relevant to this guy that he doesn't need to watch other stuff. So, so I feel now every pocket has sort of his own local superstar. They have their own cooking expert. They have their own comic genius. They have their own, funny guys and like their own sketches. So I mean, it's hard for someone outside that circle to get the context. But yeah, so I sort of feel that now, especially after Geo is coming in, the last 2 years, I've seen that trend.
And the numbers are significant even for these individuals, local
13,
celebs.
14 million YouTubes. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, Will Smith, I was just checking the other day, he has like 3 million YouTube subscribers. So I mean, like 13, 14 is a huge number, man.
Yeah. So even though they're local,
Yeah.
individually, because our regions are so big and our influence is so wide, and for all you know, like Kochi influencer probably has fans even in the Middle East and abroad, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So
diaspora, I mean, like that's a big part, and a lot of diaspora is looking for content in local languages. So, and I think that's again a big part of why this is probably what the local does, right?
Yeah.
They're speaking local languages. But if you're in South India, you really don't want to listen to Hindi content.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, so local languages, everything.
Awesome. And what's next? I mean, now obviously. Now that you're at MPL, MPL is also doing the big numbers, and of course, it's a whole new domain of, like you said, movie theater of games, and again, there's real money gaming involved here, right? So, do you think? And now this is the second, since it's the second giving away money business that you've been a part of. How do you think this lasts? It's another question which I always feel that. It's like an easy thing to do. Like, hey, I have a game or I have a concept and I'll give you some money.
Yeah.
I mean,
this is more... So I think MPL is different. One, because like I told you earlier, it has a bunch of different content on the app. It's not just one game show.
Correct.
Secondly, we're not just giving away money, we're also taking... some of that money back, hopefully. So, I mean, there are a lot of... So it's more like an esports kind of a setup where there are tournaments happening. So even
pay to play.
Yeah, exactly. So even for any sport, right? Even for the World Cup, each of these countries pay a certain fee to play in that World Cup, and then the winner takes the pot. That's just how sports work. Right. So it's similar to that. And then I feel that, I mean, this is obviously the most obvious business model, the take rate that probably Dream 11 is popularized and they make insane amounts of money on it. But especially with MPL and with gaming, I think that if you get to a big enough scale with a lot of users, I mean, just look at what Fortnite, all of these other guys are doing. I think there are like tons and tons of like opportunities. So we've already spoken to, we did a bunch of tournaments for OnePlus, and they were blown away by the kind of impressions and the kind of impact they received on MPL. So there's sponsors and there's in-app stuff you can purchase, and hopefully few of the guys on the platform themselves are getting popular. Right. And there's some plans of selling merchandise, and so I feel there are like a lot of different
avenues in which
to make money off it.
Could you talk a little bit about like legal challenges and stuff like that? Because again, if you're giving out prizes and games and stuff like that, I know game of skill versus game of chance and all that exists, but I'm sure that there are still challenges that come up in that space for you guys.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, whenever we're giving away money, the first question that anyone asks us in any meeting is that, is this gambling? Or, I mean, that's the obvious first question that always comes up. But like you said, so all the games on MPL are all games of skill. There's no luck or chance involved. So actually, if you play on the app, you will actually sort of realize that it's sort of like building a skill. Like you sort of get better at all these games the more you play. It's not like a card game or something where it's more luck based. I mean, we've stayed away from all the...
Don't call all card games luck-based. Some of them are skill-based.
Yeah, of course.
But with what you were doing with live streaming, that's literally giving away money.
Yeah.
That's just getting an audience to show up and hopefully and give away a prize based on... Again, of course, skill.
But that's a quiz show, right? So I mean, like it's an established kind of you're exploiting your knowledge for being able to win a prize. Right?
Yeah. So I mean, when we started, we sort of thought that it's a great way because suddenly everyone's in the hot seat. It's like KBC, there's only one guy on the hot seat and everyone's watching. But on Loco, everyone's on the hot seat. But then it sort of comes with its own disadvantages because when everyone's in the hot seat, a lot of people are actually losing, not winning. And a lot of KBC was also about the drama it created. Like it was always like you were rooting for the guy. It was like an underdog story and all of that. And here you don't have that. You're just taking part, and suddenly you're left with a losing feeling of I didn't win anything. So
Correct. So it had those downsides.
Yeah.
But with MPL, you're doing more things like you make yourself better.
Yeah.
And you keep trying and hopefully there's a prize at the end of that.
Yeah.
Right.
What occurs to me is it seems like it would be a great place to do poker tournaments or like, rummy tournaments or whatever those games of skills and cards might be, right?
Yeah.
So do you guys do those kinds of things or not yet?
We've kept away from all of those.
What about game? What about? I'm trying to think of something which is not as poker or rummy. This, but at the same time is somewhat in the same kind of like online snooker or something like that.
So we have a pool game.
You have a pool game. There's a tournament around that?
Yeah. So we have audio chat also. We just turned on that feature. It's insane. Like people just playing and talking to each other. So I think now we're slowly getting into that place where it's like probably like you feel like you're hanging out with someone, talking to someone.
Live chat is actually a huge part of even the PUBGs and
Fortnite. Yeah.
So I think someone rightly said that probably the end goal for any consumer app is like when you get closer to a dating app. And now we're sort of seeing guys and girls chatting and we're like, wow, it's getting closer.
Very interesting. And of course, I'm sure there's a lot more interesting stuff to come. Of course, MPL is seeing some killer growth and you guys will keep innovating. And we'll hear more about that. I hope you're planning to stick around in MPL for a while. I think there's so much to do. But there will always be the next thing and there'll be a lot of cool stuff. I'm sure we are in the third year of Geo now.
We're going to start saying, right, BJ and AJ before Geo, after Geo.
Yeah, exactly. So
right?
I have a feeling by next year it will be most of the countries smartphone covered. Some new angle will come up.
Definitely.
But and guys, just a reminder, please do sign up for the Slack channel. It's on ivmpodcast.com/Shunya1. There's a button over there that says sign up for Slack and we'll send you an invitation. Also, please remember, do give us a rating. There are a bunch of places where you can do that. If you're using an iPhone, go to the Apple Podcast app. If you're not using an iPhone, then you can go to the Facebook page or Castbox or any number of places. Just go, give us a rating, give us a review. That kind of thing helps.
Yes. And Abhishek, how do people reach out to you? May do a shout out to your Twitter handle maybe and anywhere else you are.
Yeah, so I think I'm at Twitter at Abhishek Madhavan. I think Madhavan Abhishek. Yeah.
All right. So if people reach out, then they probably will catch up with you in Bangalore if you ever get the time.
Hopefully.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for doing the show. This was awesome.
Thanks for having me. Thanks.
माणसं गोलगप्प्यासारखी असतात. हाय हॅलो करताना वेगळी आणि बोलताना वेगळी आणि गप्पा मारताना वेगळी, मित्र झाली की वेगळी आणि शत्रू म्हणून वेगळी, थोडक्यात दिसणारी वेगळी आणि असणारी वेगळी, कधी आंबट, कधी गोड, कधी तिखट, तर कधी चमचमीत आणि कधी कधी हॉट अँड स्पायसी सुद्धा. आणि म्हणूनच गप्पा गोल गप्पा विथ तृप्ती खामकर फक्त तुमच्यासाठी दर बुधवारी IVM पॉडकास्टच्या ऍपवर, वेबसाईटवर किंवा युट्यूब चॅनलवर सुद्धा ऐकू शकता. तुम्ही आमचा पॉडकास्ट वेगवेगळ्या पॉडकास्ट प्लॅटफॉर्मवरती ऐकू शकता. फक्त सर्च करा गोल गप्पा विथ तृप्ती खामकर आणि आमचा पॉडकास्ट ऐकत रहा.
भारतीय सिने इतिहास में महिलाओं की जगह तलाशता हमारा खास हिंदी पॉडकास्ट सिनेमाया, निर्देशिकाओं की फिल्मों, कहानियों और नजरिए को समझने की हमारी एक कोशिश. मैं हूं स्वाति बख्शी और मेरे साथ सुनिए सिनेमाया IVM पॉडकास्ट ऐप और IVMpodcast.com पर भी.